उसके लिए तो lecture.
Give them. Jagannath Priya.
Oh.
Very beautiful. Hare Krishna. Show me now. Yeah, not after Bhagavatam. Vroeger maar net.
Very sorry, dear Guru.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm working out.
It's okay. I was just a bit traveling, so when I came, first 3 days I was just taking rest.
Yeah.
It changed already.
I think
it's changed because it's not working on the phone.
went to India.
You're not a child, and
I was just not there fully recovered.
And you're going to India? No.
I'm going to India for anything Amsterdam next week. And there is a national bank. I'm going to India for 2 days. Then it's not possible.
2 days of India.
Yeah. It's till November it's like that.
You're traveling a lot.
Yeah, till November.
Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from text number 22 of chapter 28, canto 4. Ranjan becomes a woman in the next life. Evam Kripanaya Buddhya Shochantam Atad Arhanam Grahitum Krita Dhir Enam Bhaya Namabhyapadyata Evam Kripanaya Buddhya Shochantam Atadarhanam Grahitum Kritadhirenam Bhayanamabhyapadyata Evam Kripanaya Buddhya Shochantam Atadarhanam Grahitum Kritadhirenam Bhayanamabhyapadyata Evam Kripanaya Buddhya Shochantam Atadarhanam Grahitum Kritadhirenam Bhayanamabhyapadyata
Evam Kripanaya Buddhya Shochantam Atadarhanam Grahitum Kritadhirenam Bhayanamabhyapadyata Evam Kripanaya Buddhya Shochantam Atadarhanam
Evam Kripanaya buddhya
Evam Kripanaya buddhya
Susantumatat ahanam
Suchantamatadahanam
Gahitum kitadiyenam
Grahitum kritadirenam
Bhayanam abhyapatyata
Bhayanamabhyapadyata.
Ladies.
Evam kripanaya buddhya
Evam kripanaya buddhya
Sochanto matadarhanam
Suchantamatadahanam
Grahitum kritadhirenam
Grahitum kritadirenam
Bhayanamabhyapadyata
Bhayanamabhyapadyata
Evam kripanaya buddhya
Evam kripanaya buddhya
Sochanto matadahanam
Sochanto matadahanam
Grahitum kritadirenam
Grahitum kritadirenam
Bhayanamabhyapadyata
Bhayanamabhyapadyata.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although King Puranjan should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raj, whose name was Fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him. Purport. Foolish people do not know that every individual soul is responsible for his own actions and reactions in life. As long as a living entity in the form of a child or boy is innocent, it is the duty of the father and mother to lead him into a proper understanding of the values of life. When the child is grown, it should be left up to him to execute the duties of life properly. The parent, after his death, cannot help his child. A father may leave some estate for his children's immediate help, but he should not be overly absorbed in the thoughts of how his family will survive after his death. This is the disease of the conditioned soul. Not only does he commit sinful activities for his own sense gratification, but he accumulates great wealth to leave behind so that his children may also gorgeously arrange for sense gratification. In any case, everyone is afraid of death, and therefore death is called bhaya or fear. Although King Puranjan was engaged in thinking of his wife and children, death did not wait for him. Death does not wait for any man. It will immediately carry out its duty. Since death must take away the living entity without hesitation, it is the ultimate God realization of the atheists who spoil their lives thinking of country, society, relatives to neglect God consciousness. In this verse, the word atad arhanam is very significant, for it means that one should not be overly engaged in welfare activities for one's family members, countrymen, society, community. None of these will help a person to advance spiritually. Unfortunately, in the present day society, so-called educated men have no idea what spiritual progress is. Although they have the opportunity in the human form of life to make spiritual progress, they remain misers. They use their lives improperly and simply waste them thinking about material affairs, material welfare of their relatives, countrymen, society, and so on. One's actual duty is to learn how to conquer death. Lord Krishna states the process of conquering death in the Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mame tiso Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. After giving up this body, one who is fully Krishna conscious does not accept another material body, but returns home back to Godhead. Everyone should try to attain this perfection. Unfortunately, instead of doing so, people are absorbed in the thoughts of the society, friendship, love, and relatives. This Krishna conscious movement, however, is educating people throughout the world and informing them how to conquer death. Harim vina nastrim taranti. One cannot conquer death without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I am grateful for this morning opportunity to do some service here. Nice to see all of you once again. Thank you Damodar Prasad Prabhu for engaging me in this service on this weekend. And nice to see so many devotees, the similar set of devotees again. It's encouraging that together some services are going on. That's so assuring in the current times. When Prabhu gave me this topic, I was a bit confused in the sense that in last couple of 6 months, almost since November, I have been in US multiple times, and this discussion about who we are, what a gender is raging a lot. Who is a male, who is a female, those kind of discussions have come in the mainstream. And there are extremely disturbing psychological experiments which are going on the children and common people in the society. Especially every English-speaking country is affected. You are still safe because of the mainstream language here is not English. Otherwise UK, US and all are suffering through this whole concept of man, woman and so on. So I was thinking that this chapter, Puranjan becomes woman in the next life, if in modern times someone would read just this title, would seem that this is a very racist chapter. As if becoming a woman is a derogatory thing. That would be the first perception. So I was thinking from that perspective that soon a time is going to come when many of these things, many of these topics, titles, these terms will have to be relooked. Otherwise we would be constantly dealing with socio-political upheavals, even with the statements of Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So while Puranjan here, of course, because we are till the text 24, so you know by now that it's more of a metaphor. Puranjan is a metaphorical representation. It represents the human body itself. It does not represent the male form as such. And becoming a woman in the next life technically does not specifically limit to becoming a woman. So I'm just making this clarification for some of you who are ladies here, and also others who are men, to not see the distinctions in the scriptures in the literal sense of man, woman. Because you will find so many statements in scriptures where it appears that having a woman form of life by default is derogatory, or it has less opportunity for spiritual perfection. It's not exactly true that way. Probably it would have been true at some point of time. But today, the essential property of being a male and essentially property of being a female, those kind of roles have got quite disturbed in the modern civilization. In the sense that men and women are not strictly restricted to their basic roles. They are doing the same activities more or less, and so on. And therefore, all these kind of egoistic perceptions can build up for someone. And there are too many men also who sometimes think that because men have been given a distinct advantage in scriptures in certain manner, and therefore every man is a great man. That's not true. So a person who is strictly working for the progress of his spiritual enhancement, such a person essentially is struggling. He is in the battlefield of his mind and senses. And that kind of struggle could be seen as a masculine energy as such. A feminine energy necessary is in nourishment, care and support. Today, there are too many males who do not have the energy which the males should have in the sense of the struggle against the mind and senses. They are as weak and as emotional as far as the warfare with our own mind and senses concerned. So in that sense, one cannot take the scriptures, the statements of the scriptures in the literal sense that, oh, woman means a fallen and man means an elevated soul. So I'm just making this slight clarification here. Otherwise, recently I was speaking with one group of feminists who claim to be feminists in New York, and they got stuck in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, because Prabhupada writes something quoting some of the shlokas. And I had almost 3-hour discussion from 9:30 p.m. after the program. The program started at 7 o'clock. It ended at 8:30. We had discussions for dinner, and then after dinner till 12:30 a.m. It was just resolving this one conflict of why women are spoken like this in scriptures. So I was trying to tell it's not just the women, it's generally the whole civilization today has lost the sense of being warrior against the mind and senses. So when you have that spirit, you don't specifically relate to the stereotype roles of a man and woman. So essentially anyone who is on the spiritual life, one who is weak in his practices of spirituality should see that he does not exactly have the masculine qualities, even if you are a male. Masculinity is about taking responsibility and rising. Femininity does not mean that not being responsible. Femininity means nourishment, care and support. They are, by nature, women are loaded with that kind of thing. So essentially any spiritualist has a combination of these characteristics. He is very kind, very compassionate, very generous, very caring, very loving, and at the same time he is a warrior with himself. So one should not differentiate that way. Earlier times this differentiation was made because the gender specific roles were extremely clear in the society. Extremely clear. Because the society was such. Today, in this purport, very interesting thing Prabhupada says, children, when a person is like as long as the living entity is in the form of a child or a boy is innocent, it is the duty of father and mother to lead him to the proper understanding of values of life. In the schools of, specifically many schools of England and many schools of United States of America, these two countries, what happens in these two countries matters a lot because they govern the idea and the morality of the civilization. Children of the age of 8 years, 9 years, 10 years are being exposed to the whole spectrum of gender, and then they are being given a free choice to choose what they are. And there are bills which are being proposed that they could be given the freedom to choose their gender or change their gender or get into surgeries and so on. So when I was reading this purport, I was just wondering that instead of protecting the innocence of the child, there is no effort by the general society to preserve the innocence and use that innocence to instill moral values. Instead, demoniac values are being thrusted upon children. Imagine what the society is going to become after 15-20 years. Just less than a month ago, I was doing a seminar specifically for preteens before they get into college. And I love to do those seminars not specifically to teach, but it also helps me to measure where the civilization is going. And I was shocked with the kind of discussions which were happening in the whole session. So we have a seminar, something called cohabitation, where I speak about friendship, relationship, marriage, this, that. It's a whole discussion which goes on for 3-4 days. I was surprised to see 11-year, 12-year-old children. Many of them had this doubt, are we actually male, are we actually female, and so on. I was wondering at that time, when they are going to read the purports and they come across these statements called he, she, boy, girl, what are they going to understand? And what is the civilization going to achieve? You see, this whole moral set of values, ethical set of values, which are based on certain clear defined principles, are going to get destroyed absolutely, totally. Because it's going to be difficult for people to just understand. When you talk about children, when you talk about a boy, when you say a girl, these definitions itself are getting disturbed. And it is interesting that this line, this particular line of the purport, probably it was not such a very important line couple of years ago, because obviously the parents would take care of the innocence of children and help them. But today, it's a very revolutionary line, that one has to take care of the innocence of the children and help them understand something, the proper values of life. Some other words which Prabhupada uses here: overly attached, overly absorbed. Sometimes for practicing spiritualists, many practicing spiritualists, when they are young in age, when they come across such statements of attachment and detaching from the family, they take these statements in an extreme sense. So I would say Prabhupada has very carefully written this word overly attached and overly absorbed. That means to conduct the affairs of our mundane life, mundane world, some sense of attachment, some sense of illusion, some sense of absorption is required, and that is not always unhealthy. One should not see that attachment towards our family, our nation, our society, our environment is bad. Being overly attached is bad. If you do not have any sense of attachment, you will not be able to even perform basic duties. And that is why the Bhagavatam Bhagavatam in the beginning itself, it speaks about the fifth Purushartha, or it tries to say that Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is limited. Bhagavatam does not, or none of the Vedic literature say that the basic Purushartha or the four necessary things for human life, which is Dharma, religiosity, Artha, acquisition of wealth and meaningful things, meaningful gross things, wealth, car, property, money, some education, that is Artha. Kama means the pleasures, and Moksha means going beyond all these things. So all these four are essential elements which must be performed in the journey of life. If they are neglected, it is not easy for one to automatically get into devotional service. It is difficult. I'm not saying it is impossible, but it's difficult. Most of us, throughout our different stages of life, we have different priorities which take place. I remember yesterday I was speaking to someone that when we were 16, 18 years of age, all we were talking about was book distribution, scores and this and that and numbers and how many people came, how many books we distributed. It was all about numbers and volumes. At a certain age, the priority shifts. Although we were reading the same Bhagavatam at the age of 15, 16 and same Bhagavatam at 45, 50, the perception changes. This simply means that no matter how well we are engaged, the consciousness necessarily follows the growth of the body itself. You cannot ignore that journey, more or less. It is essential to attend to certain needs of the body and mind at different stages in different manners. If one ignores that, he will not be able to make the essential journey. And therefore, when Prabhupada uses these words, overly absorbed and overly engaged, they are very, they should be given very special importance. Prabhupada could have said that just trash all this stuff. He does not say. In fact, even in Isha Upanishad, which is one of the primary Upanishads where it speaks about aspiring for the supreme truth, only the supreme truth. Even in Isha Upanishad, Srila Prabhupada gives importance that as long as one can connect one's family, one's nation, one's duty towards the surroundings and all those things, let's say philanthropy, as long as you can connect that to the supreme truth. Jagannath Priya Dasa, as long as one can connect that to the supreme truth, there is no problem in altruism, there is no problem in philanthropy, there is no problem in any form of isms, as long as it is connected to the supreme truth. So this is a very important principle. Otherwise we could probably become fanatic. The chapter of Puranjan, these chapters, they are like a blow to someone who is deeply absorbed in material sense of life. And certain kind of blows cannot be directly given, and therefore metaphors are used, giving some third party examples. So one should understand that our own life, basically whether we are a man or woman and whatsoever we are, or every one of us is Puranjan here. It's not only the males are Puranjan and female are not Puranjan. It's not like that. And next life, if Puranjan becomes a woman, that means he's no longer Puranjan. He's probably better. It's not, now he cannot fall anymore because the greatest fall has happened. Now he's a woman. That's not the idea here. So two aspects are very carefully portrayed here in this whole chapter. Puranjan's life with his family is not described totally derogatory. See, if that was there, then there was no discussion, no meaning to the chapter, no meaning to family life if one does not do that well. In scriptures, whenever you have characters which are described attached to the family, Why, rather we would say in scriptures there are characters which are described who are attached to the family. Why do not they use characters who are neglectful towards the family? Because they don't make any example, they don't make a good example. These are basic things. One must have a good moral value system, one must have a good journey, one must try his best. May not have the best results, one must try his best to have good education, good family, good journey, but then don't get stuck to that process, one must take it beyond. That's the whole idea. Not that because I have to take it beyond, I will neglect my education, my physical growth, my family, my relationships, and then I'll go. That's not the idea. Otherwise, scriptures would have taken most neglectful characters, being the best examples, that he neglected everything his entire life, but he chanted Hare Krishna in perfect. That's not the idea of any scripture for that matter. Parikshit was a great family man, Yudhishthir was a great family man, Arjun was a great family man, and so on. Bhishma, although he was not a family man, he was fully involved in the family affairs, managing the institution of Hastinapur, the legacy and so on. So essentially, let's say for that matter, formally, some of us who are in Saffron, we are brahmacharis in a way. But we are also taking a responsibility running the temple or the institution in a manner how a family man takes care of the family. So it's not that it's a neglect of one's roles and duties. Only such people become examples that, okay, this is good, but take it beyond. That's where spirituality comes into picture. When one neglects one's roles as a brahmachari or a grihastha and then he wants to just transcend, it never really works. This is why scriptures are filled with such examples. Even when you talk about people who have neglected their duties and responsibilities, eventually when they get enlightenment, they become better in that. Let's say Ajamil, for example. He messed up his entire life, but then he was blessed to come back and lead a proper life and then transcend that life. So transcendence always means that we first come to the normalcy level, then practice detachment from that point. Detachment should not be a tool of negligence. So that's the whole principle. The word here, evam kripanaya buddhya, this word kripana is used in couple of places in the Bhagavatam. The word kripana also comes in the Gita, the famous line, kripanaha phala hetavaha. So kripana specifically means miser. And in the human form, the miserliness, especially in the scriptures, is not concerned with the sense of money here. Amongst all the species, it is only the human beings which are called as intelligent species, biologically. Darwin has called this. So just from the point of view of biology, you have millions of species. Out of that, modern science itself classifies humans as intelligent species. Means those species which have buddhi. So it's not that animals do not have intelligence, rather. But the specific point of difference between the intelligence of man and human is, human beings can reason their intellect. Means you will doubt your intelligence and you will work on your intelligence. Animals cannot do that. They have a basic instinctive intelligence which they follow. We have an intelligence which is also at the first instant driven by instinct, but we have a tendency to bring out another set of intelligence which reasons this basic intelligence itself. I hope you are getting the point. It's a layer of intelligence over the intelligence, and that is what technically is called as intellect. Animals do not have an intellect, they have a fixed intelligence. Human beings have an intelligence and intellect. The ability to reason your intelligence itself. This is a very specific quality, and that is what is called as buddhi. So as human beings, this specific feature which is only available to humans, that is buddhi, which is the single most ability which can take a living entity from his material existence to eternity. If that ability is not used, one is called as Kripana or miser. Means I gave you extraordinary feature and your entire life you just didn't use that. That is why this word Kripana comes. Very beautifully Bhagavad Gita also speaks Kripanaha phala hetava, means Kripana is defined as a person who tries to seek pleasure through his sensory activities. So I put effort in sensory activities and I get some results and I feel I have accomplished. How intelligently I used my mind and senses to derive pleasure, and I got it. So when a person feels satisfied just by that, such a person is called as Kripana. Means your intelligence has not been exactly used. What Prabhupada, very simple ways he says, eating, sleeping, mating and defending can be done also by all other species. But what is speciality of humans? So this aspect of buddhi, buddhi does not exactly translate it as intelligence, but due to the limitation of the language. But it is intelligence and the ability to reason that intelligence itself. So intelligence and intellect, when they get mature, that is what is called as buddhi. And as a human being, evam kripanaya buddhya. Buddhya means a person who is intelligent but he is miser. Means you have the ability but you are miserly. Why? Because the life was only stuck in my body, my family, my country and so on. It's necessary at some point of time. If you are in Switzerland, this is your country. You have to ensure that the right people come to power, the right ideologies are discussed in the society and so on, because otherwise whom will you be preaching to? You cannot serve the country or serve the nation without any sense of affection, for that matter. That responsibility one must take to whatever capacity one can do. One must get involved socially, politically, as much as you can, without compromising the ethics and principles in place. One must do. Prabhupada used to say, see, for that matter, Prabhupada could never do anything in India, which was his home country. But when he went to the West and other countries, when devotees would tell that, oh Prabhupada, it is so difficult to preach in Saudi Arabia and Russia and this and that, Prabhupada said, these are not different, everything belongs to Krishna. So he brought a very different perspective. Everything belongs to Jagannath, the Supreme Lord of the universe. So if one does not want to see one's own country from that perspective, see it as the place of the Lord, which has to be preserved and protected with the best ideologies, best discussions, best social discussions, best political discussions, best spiritual discussions. Those things must happen. And this responsibility by default is on spiritualists because they understand all the spectrums. A mundane fellow cannot understand the entire spectrum. So somehow or the other, in some way or in some manner, we have to use this aspect of buddhi, not just on physical levels, but connecting physical levels to transcendence. Otherwise, kripanaya buddhya. What remains is, I am in Switzerland, I am in Germany, I am in France, I am in India. But all the game I am playing is my house, my family, and so on. Then what's the whole point? That is what is called kripanaya buddhya. So that's the basic idea which Prabhupada is trying to enhance here. So I'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you, please can you give an example how to use buddhi? Buddhi is intelligent. You said buddhi?
Yeah, buddhi.
Yeah, buddhi.
How to use buddhi? So first of all, just even identifying that we have a buddhi is a very important step to fully understand that we have something called buddhi, that we should not be driven simply by instincts. And this is why I mentioned every species has intelligence. It is only human who can reason the intelligence itself. So even though we are driven with some kind of thought and something, try to put a reasoning. So if you want to use buddhi, the first step is when you are instinctively attracted to anything. I want to do this. Let's do this. This is attractive. This is wonderful. Immediately apply. Is it really wonderful? Is it worthy? Is it meaningful? So then we start learning to exercise our ability of buddhi. Then we see it differently. So driven by senses, start reasoning. That's where you discover the ability of buddhi. See, when you like something and you say, today I want to eat something, so you require intelligence to bring those things together, cook it, make it, or some money to buy it, whatever. So intelligence is required. But whether it is meaningful, whether it's worthy or not. So if we don't start questioning things properly, we will lose our ability of buddhi itself. It's like someone who does not exercise, eventually muscles don't develop. The more you exercise, muscle develops. So the more you question yourself, you doubt yourself, you take guidance from those who are mature, those who are sincere, those who are wise, you read scriptures. These are abilities to access your buddhi. In an inaccessible way, it lies dormant and it's of no use. So then people may see that, oh, he's a human being, that means he's a special species. But the ability is not used, so it's as good as animal. So question yourself, read scriptures, connect with some wise people. That's how you start enhancing your buddhi. She had a question and then I'll take yours. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jagannath Prabhu. I really like this point because it never struck me that Bhishma was actually a celibate, but he was so involved in family. I never thought about it that way. Thank you. And also I was thinking how this exercise to reason is in a way introspection, isn't it? Like we introspect. That could be.
Yeah, it's introspection and you see, like initial days of it. Let's put it this way. Someone who does not know how to build up muscles, he needs guidance to how to exercise well so that the muscles are developed and certain part of the body is gaining proper strength. So similarly, even the introspection needs some basic ability to develop so that one can freely introspect. Otherwise, it could just be a vague sensory thought process. Daydreaming. Daydreaming is not introspection. So how to differentiate between what we call as meaningful introspection and daydreaming? So that's why when we read scriptures the initial process is given, okay, control your senses, eat certain things in a certain way. These are all processes to develop buddhi, to strengthen the ability to introspect. Once that develops, then our reflections naturally can be classified as introspection. Otherwise, a child just sitting and daydreaming and maybe say, I am thinking something, it's not introspection as such. So, introspection is more of a developed way of thinking which has been developed, say, with scriptures, with reasoning and so on. So, initial something is required and then we introspect. By itself, introspection, this word can become very dangerous. It could become daydreaming and a person is thinking something and then he thinks, I want to do thing, and comes with a whimsical idea. Now that does not become introspection. So,
thank you. Now my question was that because you gave a very nice perspective on how to see these chapters about, and then you mentioned, And then I was thinking, a few purports ago, Prabhupada actually does say that, and I found it very striking when it was read, that Prabhupada says that this fact that when Puranjan takes birth as a woman, then there is a fall down, something to that effect. And also I was, now that we are going through these chapters for the past months, there's so much to reflect upon. And then you really, there's so much about the dangers of family life, and also this danger of getting so involved and engrossed and then forgetting Krishna. And in a way, it is happening. And then also I feel like personally, if I look at my own life, sometimes you do see how relationships do take you away from Krishna sometimes. And then at that point you have to like stop or put a pause to things, because things are not Krishna conscious anymore. And there are so many warnings also, and then I don't know, it's a little intimidating for a young devotee, like there's so much. But at the same time you also bring this perspective and both are there. So how do we reconcile these two very nice perspectives together?
See, the purpose of, let's say the purpose of family or roles, duties, dharma based on varna and ashram, all these, so many duties have been spoken. This is not spoken so that we get entrapped in those varnas and ashrams. The idea is the living entity needs to experience a spectrum of things so that he can overall make sense of life and then move ahead in a mature way. So let's say, in the language of Taittiriya Upanishad, or the theory of Panchakosh, or when we say this, or layers of consciousness rather. Panchakosh is more about speaking on that idea. Layers of consciousness, think from that perspective. Let me give an example. I have never been a father. So I can theoretically understand how fathers feel or what are the duties of fathers. So it's a theory for me. But I cannot exactly feel that fatherhood. Or let's say a girl who has never been a mother cannot exactly feel the motherhood. So whether motherhood is important or not, that's a second discussion. But what does the motherhood do then? When a person becomes a father or a mother, let's say a parent, when a person becomes a parent, a person develops a sense of consciousness which was not earlier there. Now that consciousness could take you away from Krishna or take you towards Krishna. But it's an ability which develops. You add an ability of love and compassion. You get a sense of what attachment is. So scriptures then they use that attachment and say, just like you are attached to this, similarly we attach to the Lord. Consider your Lord as your child, Vatsalya Bhav. Consider Lord as your husband, which is Sakhya, Madhurya Bhav. Consider Lord as your friend. If we do not have a sense of, if we have never been a father or never experienced what a mother or father is in my upbringing, suppose I was raised in an orphan in some church or something and nobody took care of me. I do not have how will I understand these 5 rasas? Because those rasas become redundant. Love as you conjugal, like you love how husband loves and wife. I have never been a husband, never been a wife. I have never experienced love even on mundane level. How will I experience that? So even the description of this, although it is at a transcendental level, these kind of things are used because these are the easiest platforms through which we understand, we develop our consciousness and then take it further ahead. It's like, in the simplest way, I am a weak person. Everybody bullies me in my school and college. So one guy or my uncle comes or father says, come, I'll take you to the gym, we'll develop your muscles and body. Now you'll develop some skills, taekwondo or whatever. These days they have this new thing, jiu-jitsu. So develop that. Now this guy was supposed to just become strong himself and now become the protector, protect himself and maybe protect others. But now because he got strength, he uses the strength to now torture and be a bully for someone else. So that's a misuse of a strength. But being strong was essential as an ability. Similarly, when we talk of many of these rasas for that matter, it is essential to experience a sense of friendship with someone where you are naturally driven to being someone's friend. Otherwise, how do we exactly understand what this word friendship means with Lord? Someone who has never experienced being the love of the parent or being a parent or being a friend or receiving friendship for someone, how do you understand this Sakhyaras, Vatsalyaras, Dasyaras? I hope you are getting it. It's very difficult. Or else you can be a yogi who is just fully into that Ashtanga Yoga process and all those koshas or those levels of consciousness they open without even getting into the affairs of life. So either be someone who is into the whole Ashtanga Yoga process, deeply meditating, deeply introspecting. Hatiyag Pradipika speaks that if someone simply does Anulom Vilom, that pranayam, most of you may be knowing, if one does 80 of those pranayam during the Gayatri period, the sunrise, noon time and sunset, for 4 months, you will acquire special abilities. I was thinking one Chaturmas I do that. So 80 means it will take almost 2 hours to complete that breathing process. Morning, noon and evening. Whether you get mystic process or not, abilities or not, but one thing is for sure, your levels of perception become extraordinary. Because I tried this only for 4 or 5 days and I got attracted to the idea that I want to try once for 3-4 months. Just chant, breathe, and develop consciousness. At the end of the day, it's a journey of consciousness. When you talk about attachment, what is that? It's just consciousness getting attached somewhere, right? It's an internal thing, it's not external. So either we do something like that where the koshas fructify, where the internal ability, or we engage in these responsible domains where the same koshas fructify. When a person is, let's say, there are so many shlokas which say the Lord is like the loving father. If you have never experienced fatherhood or motherhood, how do you understand that? I don't know what a mother is and I have never been a mother or father, whatever. How does this word make sense that Lord is like a loving mother or father? So for that ability, that kosha to develop, certain things are necessary, and that is why we have grihastha ashram, that is why we have brahmacharya ashram, that is why we have vanaprastha ashram. Vanaprastha means whether you are brahmachari or grihastha, both these roles are now nullified, next stage. So these are transient processes. So one should not take the attachment during the transition as the end of everything, that because I got attached means I am now away from Krishna. That's not exactly true. I am more attached to the child at this point of time because my baby is cute and it's wonderful. But it's also giving me a sense of fulfillment. Then I take that attachment through to the Lord that, okay, let me raise the child properly. That service I can begin. Even though I may not be successful, one thing I'll realize. Similarly, the Lord is putting so much efforts on me through so many things, but still I am not right. How much pain, if I am feeling pain that I am not able to set my child properly, how much the Lord must be feeling. So those kind of, just understanding that sense of responsibility, it's worth the entire experience of becoming a grihastha, for that matter. Or entire experience of becoming a brahmachari, whichever way means. See, a brahmachari who does not understand these things will become fanatic. It's always like that. When you are attracted to... See, people are attracted to people who understand and are mature. Fanaticism hurts the individual more than anybody else. Because if I am fanatic and a person comes to me, I may hurt him once or twice. He'll go away. But every day I am living with that psychology within me. I am going to be hurting myself the most. Now, so consciousness is developed by opening those blocked channels within our buddhi process. So either yogic methods where I have no problem, my senses are not engaged with the world. So yesterday one person was asking me, how can we, he was just saying that I'm involved with so many beautiful people around me, young, beautiful girls, but I want to now practice few years of complete semen retention and brahmacharya. And do you have some techniques like this bandha? You know, in yogic process there is mula bandha, and there are different kinds of how you hold the breathing and some physical exercises you do. So I told those yogis could do because they were not in this environment. You cannot be in an environment and that you cannot keep yourself constantly in such an environment and then say I will practice some bandha. It doesn't really work that way. So when we are involved in the society, our koshas will develop only when we engage in a manner, in a way that it's eventually leading in some manner. If I fail, it's not a problem, but at least my effort has to be like that. So let's say a person says that because, you see, yeah, the Puranjan chapter is like that. It sways the intellect from one end to the other. It's like that. And in fact, it's not just Puranjan. There are Agnidra Purva Chitti discussion will come. That's also like that. It just punches every aspect of your physical access, education, attachment, love. It just brutally rips everything apart. If a person ignores all these things and is still involved in the society and is detached, is fine. But the proof that I am not detached is I am struggling with the senses. At some point of time I am fully happy doing the service, but at some point of time I feel a sense of I am so lonely, I need someone, some person like mine. Not exactly for pleasure, but a sense of companionship. I need someone who feels that my effort is valued in some manner. So if it's my child, I'll enjoy those 10 years of putting my efforts, and also you receive that child looks at you with full hope that you are the ultimate absolute truth. Mm-hmm. That gives some sense of joy, accomplishment, a fulfillment, which is necessary at some point for some people or most people. It's not wrong in itself. So someone who is not mature, probably he'll struggle. At some point, I feel I should have experienced being a father or a parent. But at the same time, I want Jagannath. But I want this. So that means take this and then connect. That's the basic indication. If I ignore this at a certain age, I'll be hankering so strong, I'll become lonely, lost within, inside. And then you go for unnatural relationships at a certain age. All those things happen. So the idea of ashram is to be seen in that perspective, that oh, these are necessary, essential pleasures which must be taken in a certain manner, but they are not exactly pleasures in themselves because they have a lot of challenges and so on. So every ashram has this aspect. I have seen so many friends of mine leaving brahmachari ashram and feeling that now they are doing more spirituality when they are grihasthas. And although being in temple, doing nice service, they were feeling they are not doing spiritual activities. Because you cannot fight, you cannot develop consciousness just by a theoretical thrust of data on the mind. It's not possible. That though there is a sense of sadhana and evolution which must take place in consciousness. And that journey cannot be a journey which is just driven by self. That's why we have these elements called mercy, kripa, this, that, so many aspects. And then karma, duty, dharma means that. So ignoring those things doesn't work for most. You can ignore if you are like extraordinary. That's why I said that although when some of us are brahmacharis, we are essentially in the structure of the civil society. This is the form of a family life without a family in a way. Because being responsible, worrying for things. In fact, today brahmacharis and sannyasis are doing seminars on how to take care of children, how to take care of community. They should not be doing this because they are not taking care of their own physical lives properly. They have abused that sense, abused in a sarcastic way, I am not saying in a derogatory. They have just ripped off their own material lives badly. How can they teach care, loving, devotee care? But that means because we are doing a family kind of a thing. Sometimes people tell me, oh, you all are doing so much sacrifice, this, that, and you do not have the pleasures of family. So I say, no, I do have pleasures of family without the responsibilities of family. Because when the young kids come in the temple, I enjoy playing with them. But I don't have the responsibility of changing their diapers, this, that. But I do enjoy. It's such a nice baby, he does nice things, he looks up to me, Prabhu. I feel, oh yeah, my life has some account. Somebody looks up to me like that. I feel nice. When we are dealing with girls or women and men, we deal with many issues. So it's like family, right? Trying to resolve and help someone in some way. These are not traditional roles of a brahmachari and sannyasi. Brahmachari means just memorizing shastras, shlokas, and then deliberating, putting yourself in that fire of practice, intense fire of practice, of sadhana only. And service was unto the guru to cook for him, wash his clothes, something else, because guru is also fully into that. And grihasthas will come searching for, and the kings will come searching for such a person who they are in remote parts. Today we are into hospitality. Prabhupada began like that. If he was not feeding prasadam, there would be no ISKCON. He says ISKCON is a kitchen religion. And these seminars of how to treat devotees means it's a hospitality industry, in a way. But connected to Krishna, because that's the order. So even I would say that if I had some desires of grihastha, they are very nicely fulfilled when I'm dealing with preaching, because I deal with boys, girls. I do feel that, oh, if my daughter or son was in teenager, this was the struggle. Now I try to help him that way, whichever way, like that. It happens. When we are serving some elderly devotees, it is like serving our grandparents in some way. So in a way the idea is the kosha has to develop within, either through tapasya or through proper engagement in the journey of the world. And there are many spiritual organizations, especially the Shankarite organization, Advaita Impersonalist organization of India. When they see the brahmacharis of ISKCON, they feel that they are not actually brahmacharis. They feel that you guys are too much involved with the world. You're talking to all men, women freely. Your sadhana is just as same as how the grihastha's sadhana is. As a brahmachari sannyasi, what extra are you doing? Because they are in those traditional roles. 10 years, 16 years learning Sanskrit. By the time they come out of school, or 20, 25, they know the entire Yajurveda, the entire Rig Veda. They are masters of some sense of scripture. They feel that, oh, you guys, what's special in you? So because I was engaging in many such discussions, I could see retrospectively, in a way, we are not fitting that roles. Prabhupada did not fit that role that way. Traditional sannyasis don't do those things. Going, engaging, doing marriages and this and that. Essentially, all the duties which he wanted to give up as grihastha, he had to do finance, management, marriages, going to marriages of disciples, naming the grandchildren. These are not roles of any sannyasi or any brahmachari. So, see it in that perspective. So, I think a brahmachari or sannyasi, especially in the process of bhakti, none of us should feel that pride that we are brahmacharis, and no, we are just ordinary people engaged in a beautiful manner by their efforts. At least we are trying to engage in beautiful manner by the efforts of the acharyas. That's it. That's the process of bhakti. Whatever we can do, we do it in our best capacity. Even if it may not always please us, even if it may not always be perfect. The burden of liberation is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is only to do our best. If in the course of the journey of responsibility some deviations happen, it is Krishna's job. And that's why we have so many verses like that. There is more emphasis on doing duty than the emphasis on getting liberated. The volume of verses. It's okay. What happened to Kunti? In her entire life she could have said, right, why am I just here taking care of these mantra-produced children? They are not even born directly through physical union, sense of... but she was suffering as a mother. But in that suffering she was always remembering Krishna. So in fact I would suggest you should read the Narad Bhakti Sutra chapter 1. Go through verses about verses from 14 to 21. Very interesting. Any online version you may get, it's fine. There the definition of what bhakti is according to Parashar, bhakti according to Shandilya Rishi, bhakti according to Narad Muni. And all is coming to the similar point, but Narad Muni explains very nicely that wherever you are, whatever you are, think of that whatever I do, it is for the pleasure of Krishna. Think of Krishna in some way. That is bhakti. Narad gives the best definition of bhakti. So, one person says bhakti means engaging in duty. One person says bhakti means acquisition of knowledge. And all are agreed upon. Narad says, the verse of Bhagavad Gita, Yad karoshi, yadashnashi, yad juhoshi, dadasi, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever, do it as an offering to me. So let's say, I am not fully detached, but I have a desire to be a father. Okay, be a father, raise children nicely, bring those Teletubbies here. Let everybody enjoy seeing those nice new life. When I see elderly people, we all are abused, having too much of knowledge and gone through ups and downs. When you see a fresh person full of hope, you feel that yes, no, Switzerland is not such a bad place. This world is not such a bad place. Child brings some positivity. So it's okay. And then try to see, oh Krishna, thank you for this. It may be very insignificant, but it is okay. That's the manner in which we have to keep moving. Always have Bhagavatam as your guide in your life. At a certain age, that attachment will go away. It will minimize. It will bring disruption. Chaos may come, but the best fruits have always come in chaos. Convenience has brought nothing to anyone. So choose the chaos of intense tapasya or chaos of duties this way. Thank you. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jagannath Priya Prabhu ki jai.
See you again. Nice to see you again. Congratulations for your new responsibility and service.
What service?
I have been going good. Last 2 times I came here. I was I think he looks more energetic now. He was doing some gym and exercising like that. So after 40, which I think you're not 40, right? No, I'm 29. After 40, one should treat one's health as one's sadhana.
For me, I have this like pain that was forced me, but like in Turkey I didn't at all.
So it's very difficult.
I know I'm not thinking of how to do any exercise. Now I think I know I have to.
How's your life?
It's good.
You doing exercise?
Yeah, exercise. I do yoga regularly.
But I should do more.
About for 1.5 hours. So sadhana and health is important. So I give priority to health in a way. So because chanting you can probably do any time of the day. But if you miss morning time then you cannot do exercise. Once you eat something you cannot do it.
Yeah.
That's a bit of challenge in that morning program, chopper, and I have to do Shiva pujas.
Yeah.
When do you usually do yoga?
Yeah, maybe afternoon like 4:30.
Yeah.
So I generally do like either it happens in the morning or evening 4:30. Yeah. And if I cannot do exercise, I'll walk at least for 1 hour.
Yeah, that's something, either swim, walk,
Yeah.
yoga, something. It's good to do something. So. But yeah, there's many days just so busy.
I think if you get time, you can go through the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and all. It will help you to enhance because it Patanjali Sutra and Hatha Yoga, both of them speak about the body and mind intelligence connection. So I started learning those things only for that. When certain sadhana I would struggle with why is my mind getting absorbed beyond 20 minutes or something like that. And I realized that there are certain body energy limitations.
Connections with the body.
Yeah, so when it's very, I think every devotee should learn, especially brahmacharis.
How's the called?
Hatha
Yoga?
Hatha Yoga Pradipika. It speaks about many asanas and all of that. So basically read Patanjali Yoga Sutta and then read Hatha Yoga. And then you make a sense of, because Hatha Yoga speaks about exercises of how to do exercise. And then you make that immediate benefits. Patanjali Yoga Sutra speaks about consciousness, mind and intelligence. It does not speak about asanas at all. There are only 3 shlokas which speak on exercise. It all speaks about mind, consciousness. So you had been for a retreat, how was that? That's really break.
Oh, I had a long break. Yeah. I spent a couple of months with Shivananda Partnership. It was very nice. My best time in my life. It was seriously, it was very good because during the day I did a lot of studying, reading, preparing some seminars, and then evenings we did bhajans together and reading. Actually, I watched those. it was very nice. So, like in the morning at my chanting, I did also exercise. Every day I did exercises for the body. I went every day for a walk. Every evening we had bhajans and reading together. And during the day I practiced all the exercises. And it was a good time.
Actually, both of you know this. I'm formally doing a research on the impact of bhakti or mantras on those who have had some criminal background.
So you want to interview us?
So the qualitative research which is being made under IIT of Bombay is kind of a global
Interesting, yeah.
So
You're looking for criminals?
I'm looking for someone who has formally, at any point of time, could have formally been convicted for any petty crime or something, has gone through some sense of being caught and let alone maybe convicted for 3 months, but then he's now released. So what exactly helped that person? So it's an interview based kind of.
Yeah.
You understand how research works?
Yeah.
So I need access to such people who have some kind of background. So in our community, if you have some kind of people like this.
So we're calling because 2 weeks ago, he called me up and said, it's not exactly what you probably need, but it's very much connected. One union got caught here because of, you can call it probably cybercrime. Okay. And he's in prison. And he changed in prison. He became very spiritual and he wants to see a monk now. And he asked me if I can go there and talk to him. Okay. So I couldn't go yet. Maybe you just go and do the interview there.
No, I mean people who are now out and practicing.
Right, yeah.
Because this doesn't make a case. People in jail now are kind of saying, now I want to change. They also need to show on record.
So maybe next year when you come back then.
I mean, I have fun.
See, because you're in this region, you also have a kind of a role and you're traveling here. Maybe you can share amongst the leadership and if you find across. See, it will help our organization in a big way because this work gets published in a very high reputed journal.
And you need to, I mean, you could interview them also via Zoom or online, or do you need to personally meet them?
I can do online, I can personally anywhere in Europe, America. You may have a friend maybe in South America. That's also fine. I want to make it something which becomes a very robust kind of a thing, which shows that the process of bhakti is not just an emotional thing. Because first time, see, there is a lot of research done on Vedanta and its impact on mind. But bhakti is not taken seriously. So, when I was going to do more in the astronomy part of research, but the professor who is like that, he's a Vedantist by himself. So he was intrigued. He said, ISKCON is reaching out to so many people. And what is the deeper aspect of how that is driven? So find into that.
Astronomy?
Earlier I was going to get into the astronomical, ancient astronomy research.
Okay.
But then the professor told me to do this only. And I felt that that's the best because he saw that I was good with mathematics and astronomy, so he suggested. But then when I said that I have a lot of preaching and this and that, so he said, came up with this. And I immediately took it up because I don't have to do anything else. I have to teach. It's part of discussion. It helps our growth also. Getting into deeper things and formally. So please remember this. I may remind you once in a while.
Maybe if you would send me an email and write a few lines just who you are, what you're doing, and what university you're connected, about research, I could forward a message to European leaders and let's see that they
And of course, these things will be kept confidential.
sure. It's not that
We don't want to publicize, oh, this person
maybe a
here.
picture will appear.
So those kind of things. But I
So-
think it's a good thing.
Anyone here?
Anyone who has been severely, who has had an
Yeah.
any kind of crime is fine.
Yeah.
Possession of illegal drugs is also crime. Yeah.
I
Sometimes you have a person who is a criminal mindset, he has just been rehabilitation. Before he, there are some
Yeah.
crimes, they are not directly connected, they are sent to rehabilitation. So those are also
a person must have been catched and punished for this. Can he be one who just did crime but not nobody else?
Yeah, if you have done crime which is significant,
Yeah.
but not caught,
Then
that is also
no.
the idea is we don't want to just publish anything for the sake of it. We want to make it
Sure, it
our
should
own.
be. Sure. How long you will be in Switzerland?
And here till on Monday I'm doing college.
Oh,
I think I came in June or July. This year seems to have passed so fast.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Almost 1 year.
But you came once in between, but you didn't visit, right?
I just came for 2 days. It was in December.
But it was not last year that we did the
Retreat. No, it was a year before. Time is
It's
flying.
very fast.
We should do that.
Yeah, I was thinking today when we spoke about koshas, it reminded me of the seminar.
Yeah.
Слышала сказку?
So what's your opinion about the moon landing?